It's an incredible setup here, incredible matchmaking, incredible storytelling. Oh, you had to come here. All these fighters that step in here are warriors, and all have my respect. And I'm into this game, yeah. We'll be into this, yeah.
And we are live here in the Maverick Center, here in Salt Lake City, Utah. Folks, what a night. It is going to be historic indeed for BKFC 56.
Whoever's the king of violence right here, this is going to be a great fight.
Harry on the top. Right hand from Brady Kannon. Who's the king of violence? I am!
Combat fighting in its purest form, bare knuckle fighting in the city of angels.
80 seconds remaining.
We've got the biggest announcement in the BKFC history we're about to make, so let's make that announcement.
What's up, Knucklemania? The notorious Conor McGregor here. Ladies and gentlemen, the huge announcement that I have for you today. Conor McGregor, myself, and McGregor Sports and Entertainment is now an owner of Bare Knuckle Fighting Championship. Welcome to the big leagues. David Feldman, baby, we did it.
He's now an owner of BKFC with us, and we're going to take this motherfucking thing all the way to the top.
Good morning. Welcome to NewsWire here on SportsGrid. I'm Craig Mish. It is great to be with you here as we get ready for week 0. That's right. Week 0 of the college football season is here. Games are coming up this Saturday as football season is upon us. Thanks for tuning into the show, streaming us, however you are watching us this morning. Thanks for viewing us today. We're going to have Jim Gazzale from Legal Sports Report. We'll go over the latest in sports betting. Our guest contributor today talks some NFL. It is Jacob Camenker from Sporting News, and also a very exciting golf tournament in case you missed it over the weekend. Brady Kannon will join us. Also, he has a brand new podcast, which we will tell you about, which you can listen to and view here at SportsGrid. So that's where we'll begin here on the show. Plenty of news, notes, and information to get to as week 2 of the NFL preseason now officially in the books. And we got an announcement yesterday on a starting quarterback in the NFL. It is now official. These are the words of Antonio Pierce, not mine. Gardner Minshew, another team, another starting role. He has earned the job. He beat Aiden O'Connell for the starting gig, and now he will be starting for the Raiders, at least to start the season. Now, both quarterbacks did not have a great preseason, but even after Saturday night's game, it seems like Pierce and the hierarchy at the Raiders had to sit down and make a final decision before they go into week 3 and then, of course, into the season. But Pierce told the media yesterday that it wasn't as much about the preseason results as some of the intangibles that Minshew brings.
Gardner Minshew's going to be the starting quarterback the 2024 season. Myself, Telesco, and Luke Getzey discussed it this morning. A lot of things went into it. It wasn't based off of last night. There's a lot of factors. So we feel like Gardner gives us the best opportunity to get off to a fast start, and that's what we're going with. We support him. Our team's behind it, our staff's behind it, our organization's behind it. Yeah, experience, the operation, the processing, just everything we saw in practice. Some of it showed up in the games. A lot of stuff we can get better at. I don't think anything here is a finished product, but based off of where we want to go in the first quarter of the season, we feel like Gardner gives us the best opportunity.
Yeah, certainly Minshew has had his chances in the past. He's made the most of some of them. Inevitably, it does seem like every team gives him the chance and then takes away the starting role for him at some point. We'll see if it's the same thing with Minshew. All right, exciting golf tournament over the weekend. Hideki Matsuyama ends up taking the St. Jude Championship as he ends up beating Xander Schauffele, and Schauffele finished second place in the tournament. But, a phenomenal tournament, I would say. His 10th win on the PGA Tour. And ahead of the Cup playoffs, really fantastic finish for him. By the way, 2 strokes ahead of Xander to win, followed by Victor Hovland, Scotty Scheffler, and then Sam Burns Right behind him, 13 under par. Congrats to Hideki, and there he is, lifting the trophy. Couple of NFL preseason games last night, including the Denver Broncos, who have made the most of this preseason, that's for sure. So has Bo Nix. They beat the Packers by a final of 27-2 yesterday, and Nix thus far has looked the part of a starting quarterback in the NFL. Again, it is just a preseason, but Sean Payton has given him the chance to succeed. And Nix has said, like every other quarterback says, executing the plays that he's asked to execute has been the key.
Yeah, it felt really good. I thought we started off really well. Defense got a huge stop, flipped the field for us, and we were able to walk away with points. You'd like to get a touchdown in that situation, but then we were able to turn back around, go down and get a touchdown. So I thought we executed well. We stayed in front of the chains. Even though we got behind on that one, we were able to get a chunk play and get back in the red zone and get a first down. So that was really good. You like to see what those guys can do, and tonight they made plays, and you got Tim, Cortland, all those guys that were out there making plays and executing the play. So nothing that was crazy. I mean, we see it every day, but those guys just went out there and put it on film.
Yeah, good look for Denver yesterday. True story. Last night, I thought, because I saw social media posts of Tom Brady at the 49ers game, I thought for some reason he was calling the game on Fox, because I was like, oh, he must be getting some practice time in, like all the other announcers. So I tuned it in, and he ain't doing the game. And so then I just tuned it right out. But I knew we'd be talking about it here on the show today. 49ers 16-10, the final score there. By the way, Josh Dobbs again. I mean, every team this guy plays on, he ends up helping them, and he'll probably help the 49ers at some point this season. 16-10, the final there. There's a picture of Dobbs in a 49ers uniform. Hey, Randy Gregory, boy, this saga continues. This time the Buccaneers released him, never showed up to camp. They never knew why, didn't report. He's played with the Broncos and the Cowboys, and he certainly had some, personal issues in the past. So we wish him the best if this is the end of the line. But needless to say, it's been a lot of drama over the course of Gregory's career. Not so much for Stephon Gilmore, always playing at a high level. Surprisingly unsigned, the Vikings did sign him to a one-year contract, $10 million. $7 million of that is guaranteed. All right, week 0 is here. College football is this Saturday, and we'll be previewing the games all week long, including live programming coming up Saturday morning with College Football Today. Florida State will open up the season against Georgia Tech. That's the first game. Boise State made an announcement yesterday. A little surprising. Maddox Madsen is their starting quarterback, beating out Malachi Nelson for the starting job. And so this is a little bit of a surprise here. Some people thought Nelson would be the starter for the Broncos. Louisville has lost their wide receiver, Colin Lacey, to a broken collarbone. He was one of the top players to sign in the transfer portal. It was expected to be either their wide receiver 1 or 2 going into the season. And also, you may remember the individual that was on the coaching staff at the University of Michigan that was being accused of going to other places and wearing mustaches and glasses and trying to steal signs and do some other things. And they made a 30 for 30 about it. I haven't seen it yet. But it's going to come out. Connor Stallions, he's been hired as defensive coordinator at Mumford High School. Congratulations to Connor Stallions. All right, last night, fun game at Williamsport between the Tigers and the Yankees. It was the Tigers taking the win there in front of a lot of kids. A great scene, without a doubt. 3-2 the final as the Tigers win. And the Yankees basically decided at the trade deadline to not attack the bullpen, not get anybody extra. And boy, Clay Holmes blew it again. 10th save blown in Major League Baseball this season. That, of course, leads Major League Baseball. By the way, next year, when they do this game in Williamsport once again, it's going to be the New York Mets and Seattle Mariners. So that will be the next one. And it'll be August 17th, 2025. How about the Tampa Bay Rays? They trade everybody away and they just keep winning. They beat the Diamondbacks, not once, not twice, but 3 times this weekend. Swept, and Ketel Marte re-aggravated his sprained ankle. We'll see what happens with him. Diamondbacks' first 3-game skid since June, so we won't hold them completely accountable. They've been playing great baseball since the All-Star break. Austin Riley, by the way, yesterday, another injury to the Atlanta Braves. He was hit in the hand with a 97-mile-an-hour fastball as they head back to Atlanta. They're going to do some imaging to see if they can get more results. As of right now, no word how much time he will miss, and the Braves have been missing everybody this season, fair to say. All right, Caitlin Clark, another big game for her yesterday. The Fever beat the Storm 92-75. Caitlin Clark on the sidelines, yelling at the other sideline, saying to stop crying. I don't know if you guys saw that yesterday. She's feeling herself right now, and they're playing much better. Asia Wilson broke her own record in the Aces victory, 87-71 over the Sparks. She had 34 points and 13 rebounds. 17th game with 20 points and 10-plus rebounds. And they end up winning by 16, although the LA Sparks are horrible. They've been getting crushed almost every single game. Also, Las Vegas Aces coach Becky Hammon is standing firm on this case with De'Erica Hamby. Hamby filed a federal lawsuit on Monday alleging that because of her pregnancy, she was subject to repeated acts of intimidation and discrimination on the Aces. And meanwhile, the Philadelphia 76ers have agreed to a one-year, $2.1 million contract with a forward named Gershon Yabusele, a 2016 first-round pick from the Celtics. He was playing for France and helped them a lot in the Olympics. And there is some thought process that because of that performance at the Olympics, he has earned himself a new contract. So congratulations to him. Coming up next, we are joined by Jacob Camenker of Sporting News. We're going to go over everything happening with the Las Vegas Raiders. You talk about a team that was in some turmoil over the last couple of years. Did they fix their problems by announcing yesterday that Gardner Minshew is the starter? And also we'll ask Jacob what to make of preseason performances, especially out of the quarterback position, and even more specifically with the Denver Broncos. Did Bo Nix turn enough heads to make you confident that the Broncos could be a little bit better than they were last year? Stay tuned. More NewsWire coming your way right after this break.
What a chance it is for Adam Paxton and Victor Tingsham to pick up their first weekly titles. Adam Paxton, well, it's been the dream debut so far for him. For Victor Tingsham, he'll feel like this is a moment a little while coming. A place in the final up for grabs for one.
You can do it. Make that double 18 away for a place in the final.
Wesley Plaisir was beaten, knocked out by Mike Warburton in a last leg decider.
Play. That is what they are playing for. They are playing for the trophy. They are playing for the big prize pot, and they are playing for a place in the £25,000 Champions Week.
97.
There is a point you feel that reality will surely kick in for Adam Paxton. He's here on debut. He watches the Super Series almost every single week. He was happy just to be playing in a group. This could be the leg that we talk about at the end of the night as being the one that changed the final, because Adam Paxton has just gone cold at the moment.
Bang on,
He doesn't just get two, he gets the lot.
Adam should take out the 16 out. If not, Mike's just behind him.
Shot on the fifth leg.
Can Paxton deliver one of the biggest moments of his career so far? He can. Double 12. What a moment that is from Adam Paxton. Mike Warburton was looking at 60 to win the match.
14.
Paxton, here's your moment. He approaches the hockey with confidence, with time, and delivers. Adam Paxton on debut. The boy, the fanboy, comes to the Super Series and wins.
Welcome back to NewsWire here on SportsGrid. Jacob Camenker is with us from Sporting News. We're going to touch on some AFC West quarterbacks as we begin here on the show. Jacob, great to see you again, and happy football season to you, and it's good to have you back.
Yeah, thanks, Craig. Glad to be here, and I'm glad for sure that it's football season with everything kicking up. I mean, we're going to have 2 weeks from Thursday, season opener. Doesn't get better than this, man.
Yeah, we're almost there. I was taking my son to school, explaining to him. He's like, why do they call it week 0? And I don't have a good explanation for that for college football. I tried, though. It took me a while. Okay, so how would we describe the career of Gardner Minshew? Like, what is the comp for Gardner Minshew? Because wherever he goes, Jacob, they love him, and he starts, and he gets a chance, and the teams are so happy with him, and then they never keep him. I mean, how many teams are we going to? Jacksonville, oh, we love Gardner Minshew. He's so good for us. He does all things the right way. We're going to make a big deal. They win some games. He's gone. Goes to Philadelphia, fills in for Jalen Hurts. Oh, my gosh, Gardner Minshew, thank goodness we had him. He's gone. Goes to Indianapolis. Same thing. Anthony Richardson gets hurt. Oh, we're so happy we have Gardner Minshew. He's gone again. And here go the Raiders. They're doing the same thing. I have nothing against Gardner Minshew. He's a fun guy, and he's a serviceable quarterback, I guess. But is this going to be his lot in life, Jacob, to just keep going to different teams to hold the fort down until they get a real quarterback? That's not fair to anybody.
Yeah, it doesn't seem fair to him. It almost seems like Ryan Fitzpatrick might be the best comp for him, where you look at him and you say, hey, this guy's a pretty good starter. We can get by with him. We can win some games. Minshew hasn't made any sort of playoff run as a starter, but you're never going to feel down and out when he's the quarterback. I mean, the Colts last year almost made it to the playoffs. They had a win in in-game against the Texans late in the year. Minshew was pretty good for them. 15 touchdowns, 9 interceptions. At his best, Gardner Minshew is a guy who can distribute the ball downfield, make some plays, and avoid turnovers. He was better at the turnover avoidance early in his career, but at the end of the day, you have an accurate, solid quarterback who's going to put a respectable performance on the field pretty much every week. That's how he keeps getting these jobs, and that's why I think the Raiders probably made the right choice going with him. Aiden O'Connell might have more upside because he's the younger player, but I think if you look at this Raiders team and this offense that has Devontae Adams, Jacoby Myers, Brock Bowers, there's a lot of weapons there. So if you get a guy like Minshew who can distribute the ball to them, I think they're going to be pretty competitive, stay in a lot of games. Maybe they don't make the playoffs because the AFC is loaded. But, hey, the Raiders, they're going to be a tough team to beat week in and week out as long as their defense continues to play well.
Yeah, my concern, Jacob, for this before we move on from the Raiders is like we've seen in the past with some teams. It happens in a lot of sports, by the way, that, Jacob, do you think the Raiders are that team in the next 2 weeks that looks internally at their team and says, you know what? We're not good enough to beat out some of the others. And like a thief in the night, they move out Devontae Adams somewhere else. Every year this happens to some team. Some team just decides we've sold our tickets. We're ready to go, but we ain't good enough. I don't know. Like I'm sort of sniffing that here, thinking that could happen. Maybe I'm crazy here and Minshew will have Devontae Adams, but I don't know if the Raiders are that team. But Jacob, you know as well as I do, baseball, football, basketball, like the night before the season, sometimes teams do these deals.
Yeah, I wouldn't be super surprised to see the Raiders eventually move on from Devontae Adams this year. I think maybe the trade deadline would be the one to watch. If they're sort of out of contention in the AFC, which, again, they're looking like maybe at best a wild card contender because of how many top-tier teams there are, they might say, hey, we should move on from him. We have Jacoby Myers. We have Trey Tucker, who has a lot of upside. Let's give these guys a chance to prove themselves. But I think going into the season, they want to give Antonio Pierce kind of a chance to take command and say, hey, you have pretty good personnel here. We're going to let you have a shot at winning with this. And then if not, we'll try to kind of rebuild on the fly and get you up to a playoff contender before. But I think if the Raiders were in the NFC, we'd be feeling a lot better about them as a team because there just aren't as many wild card contenders there.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. All right, so Denver, there's natural optimism here. It's been fake optimism the last several years, as you know, Jacob. Just, a lot of different GMs, coaches, quarterbacks this year. It's all about Bo Nix. I will say that in the video highlights that I've seen of Nix, legitimately has looked good in the preseason. 205 passing yards, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. And certainly nobody is picking the Broncos to win. Most people feel like this is a transition / rebuild year for them. Should Broncos fans be optimistic with preseason stats? Because he would be the poster boy for the preseason this year.
I think you can look at his performance and say, yeah, there are certainly reasons to be encouraged. I mean, you look at how he's performed. He's been hyper accurate. He has the second best passer rating in the preseason so far, 116.7 among qualified passers. But the big thing you got to remember is it is still just the preseason. And you can just look at the quarterback ahead of him in passer rating as like a cautionary tale of how, hey, maybe performing well in the preseason doesn't mean anything. Mac Jones currently leads the league in preseason passer rating with a 120.7 rating. And look, I was a Mac Jones guy coming out of college, but it's no secret his time with the Patriots didn't exactly work out. And I'm not saying that Bo Nix is going to bust or anything here, but the competition level is going to kick up a little bit once the regular season actually starts. So I do think there will be growing pains, but I think you've seen kind of what you're going to see a little bit from Nix. He's an experienced 5-year college starter. He has good mobility, and he's a very accurate quarterback at his best. So maybe the Broncos' floor is a little higher than we thought it was with Nix there, because they still have Cortland Sutton and Tim Patrick is there, and he's a rock-solid weapon when healthy. So I think if he can take advantage of those guys, they'll be in okay shape. But, he's still a young quarterback on a team that has some holes on it. So I wouldn't get overly excited about this season if I'm a Broncos fan.
All right, so let's move to the Bears, Jacob. Any difference between the way Caleb Williams has played than Bo Nix? I know the Bears fans are excited about Williams, but, a long way to go, I guess. Another tale of preseason, I suppose.
Yes, I think there's reason to be optimistic and excited about Caleb Williams. He's shown off that high-end arm strength and arm talents and the mobility needed to make plays for this Bears offense. So I think you're seeing the ceiling that the Bears have, but again, there's going to be some growing pains. He's only completed 50% of his passes so far, so there may not be a true playoff contender right away. But next year, look out for them.
Would agree. All right, Jacob, great to catch up with you again. We'll see you again soon. Thanks for coming on.
Thanks, Craig. Take care.
All right, we'll take a break. Sports Grid Sound Off coming up next. Will Michael Penix Jr. play before the regular season again? We'll tell you next.
What a chance it is for Adam Paxton and Victor Tingsham to pick up their first weekly titles. Adam Paxton, well, it's been the dream debut so far for him. For Victor Tingsham, he'll feel like this is a moment a little while coming. A place in the final up for grabs for one.
You can do it. Make that double 18 away for a place in the final.
Wesley Plaisir was beaten, knocked out by Mike Warburton in a last leg decider.
Play. That is what they are playing for. They are playing for the trophy. They are playing for the big prize pot, and they are playing for a place in the £25,000 Champions Week.
97.
There is a point you feel that reality will surely kick in for Adam Paxton. He's here on debut. He watches the Super Series almost every single week. He was happy just to be playing in a group. This could be the leg that we talk about at the end of the night as being the one that changed the final, because Adam Paxton has just gone cold at the moment.
Bang on,
He doesn't just get two, he gets the lot.
Adam should take it the 16 out. If not, Mike's just behind him.
Shot on the fifth leg.
Can Paxton deliver one of the biggest moments of his career so far? He can. Double 12. What a moment that is from Adam Paxton. Mike Warburton was looking at 60 to win the match. Paxton, here's your moment. He approaches the hockey with confidence, with time, and delivers. Adam Paxton on debut. The boy, the fanboy, comes to the Super Series and wins.
Welcome back to NewsWire here on Sports Grid. Time to dive into a couple of different football topics. As a matter of fact, we have three: Notre Dame Fighting Irish, Miami Hurricanes football, and of course the Atlanta Falcons, who've been getting a lot of attention this preseason. It's time now for the Sports Grid Sound Off. Well, it's probably fair to say that the team that made the most intriguing move of the NFL draft was the Atlanta Falcons when they took Michael Penix Jr. after signing Kirk Cousins. And then they went out and made a pretty big trade to acquire Judon from the Patriots. So I guess the question remains, is all this hype for the Atlanta Falcons legit? Well, they did see a little bit of Penix play during the preseason, but it does appear that Cousins will start game 1 of the NFL season for the Atlanta Falcons. And we may not even see Michael Penix Jr. play again in the NFL preseason, maybe just only at practice. Raheem Morris, the head coach of the Falcons, basically said what we've seen is enough, and we like it.
Last week, we wanted to get him out there and get a feel for what he was in live game, which we kind of already knew. Wanted to see him be able to answer questions, talk about it on the sideline, go out there and execute, make mistakes and know what to do. Like when he looked the wrong way, getting right to the check down. He did a lot of those things a lot, but it took a hit last week, should have changed the protection. He's able to clearly communicate those things. I mean, we've seen enough last week of Michael Penix and the live stuff, and now we had the chance to mitigate him in practice. And we give him a bunch of live stuff out there in practice that you do everything that you would do in a game other than get hit. But we feel really good where we're at with Michael. We feel really good where we're at with the other guys that we set, and we treated that the same way. But Mike showed us last week enough that we don't have to play him in the preseason.
Yeah, and it would appear that with the Falcons having one more preseason game left this coming week, that we will not see him, and whether or not we see Kirk Cousins, probably unlikely, but still remains to be seen. All right, it's a tale as old as time. The Miami Hurricanes are going to be a good football team. How many times have we heard that in the last 10, 20 years? It's been a long time, but seemingly people buy in every year to the talent they have on the team. Well, we have another buyer. He's on our social media team. Christian DeBlock says he's ready to believe in the U.
Miami has not had a roster as talented as this one in a long, long time. The expectation should be to win the ACC. The two giants in this conference are, of course, Florida State and Clemson, but Miami should be right up there with them in 2024. Cam Ward, coming over from Washington State, has all the tools to be the best quarterback in the ACC. Running back Damian Martinez going from Oregon State to Miami was one of the better acquisitions through the transfer portal. Last season, he had 6.1 yards per carry and totaled over 1,100 rushing yards. Mario Cristobal has a fantastic roster. If he can correct some of the mistakes he's made over the last 2 years, Miami should be competing for an ACC title and a spot in the college football playoff. Back to you, Craig.
Thanks, Christian. Yeah, I guess the problem is we've been hearing this over and over and over again. Kind of hard to buy into that. All right. Meanwhile, as we continue on, we're getting ready for Notre Dame football as well. Speaking of a team that's pretty hyped, Marcus Freeman ready to start his season with speed.
I think the elimination of mental errors, pre-snap errors, formations, like it's clean. From practice 1 to practice 15, you've seen it become clean. Like it's an explosive offense. They do a lot of different things, a lot of motions, a lot of shifts. They utilize a lot of different personnels. And when you do that, it takes time to get clean, right? And what I say is when there's clarity, then you see velocity. You see guys playing with speed. And that's, to me, the biggest positive is that, man, the execution, the way you eliminate pre-snap penalties has really been pleasing to see.
And Notre Dame football is still a couple of weeks away, but folks, you'll want to get involved with all of our programming this coming college football season because we have a slate of games Saturday and then a full slate coming up on Labor Day weekend. If you download the SportsGrid app, which I'm going to show you right now on your screen, and just take a picture of this, it's a QR code. You can download it for absolutely nothing, free, zilch, zero. iOS and Android, odds, information, stories, posts, social media clips. It is all there and available right now. It is the SportsGrid app. Just take a picture of that right there and download it to your phone. All right, we will take a quick time out here on NewsWire. When we come back next, Jim Gazzale joins us. We'll dive into the very latest on FanDuel. And then coming up, what an incredible golf tournament this week at the St. Jude as Hideki Matsuyama was not one of the favorites, but ended up winning the whole thing. Brady Kannon is going to join us here on the show and also going to tell you about, for those of you who pick football contests every week against the spread, we have a brand new show on SportsGrid that's going to help you with that. We'll tell you about that coming up. We'll be right back with more NewsWire after this.
What a chance it is for Adam Paxton and Victor Tingsham to pick up their first weekly titles. Adam Paxton, well, it's been the dream debut so far for him. For Victor Tingsham, he'll feel like this is a moment a little while coming. A place in the final up for grabs for one.
You can do it. Make that double 18 away from a place in the final.
Wesley Plaisir was beaten, knocked out by Mike Warburton in a last leg decider.
Play. That is what they are playing for. They are playing for the trophy. They are playing for the big prize pot, and they are playing for a place in the £25,000 Champions Week.
97.
There is a point you feel that reality will surely kick in for Adam Paxton. He's here on debut. He watches the Super Series almost every single week. He was happy just to be playing in a group. This could be the leg that we talk about at the end of the night as being the one that changed the final, because Adam Paxton has just gone cold at the moment.
Bang on cue.
He doesn't just get two, he gets the lot.
Adam should take up the 16 out. If not, Mike's just behind him.
Shot on the fifth leg.
Can Paxton deliver one of the biggest moments of his career so far? He can. Double 12. What a moment that is from Adam Paxton. Mike Warburton was looking at 60 to win the match.
14.
Paxton, here's your moment. He approaches the hockey with confidence, with time, and delivers. Adam Paxton on debut. The boy, the fanboy, comes to the Super Series and wins.
Welcome back to NewsWire here on SportsGrid. Time to dive in with our guest contributor from Legal Sports Report. You can read about all of the things that we discuss over at LegalSportsReport.com. Today's contributor is Jim Gazzale to hit on the very latest on sports betting in Indiana, Kentucky, and we'll start off with the latest earnings from FanDuel. Jim, great to have you back here on NewsWire.
Hey, Craig. Thanks for having me, as always.
Let's get started here, and the numbers are in from July for FanDuel, and boy, what a huge number here. A lot of parlays, I'm guessing, Jim, being played here. Am I seeing 1 billion with a B for July? Is that accurate?
Yeah, 1 billion with a B for July in New York, and it's the first July that New York sports betting handle has eclipsed that $1 billion threshold. If you look back in July 2022, almost 801 million, 23, 962 million, and then last month, $1.26 billion bet in New York. It's the 12th consecutive month now that New York sports bettors have sent in over $1 billion. That market just seems to continue to be growing as large as it is with those massive dollar amounts. Does seem to be growing, and it'll be interesting to see what happens here in the next couple of weeks and months as football season gets underway. FanDuel, the big winner, I guess you could say, in July in New York, $482.5 million in handle, $59.3 million in revenue. They continue to set the pace in this market. And like you said off the top, Craig, parlays, I'm sure, has a lot to do with that nearly $60 million in winnings from July. Unfortunately, in we don't get a per bet or bet style, per sport, whatever you want to call it, breakdown. So, we can't exactly say for sure if and how much of that was due to parlays. But as we've seen in other markets across the country, I'm sure it was a large percentage of their winnings. One other interesting note coming out of New York in July was Fanatics, nearly $9 million in winnings for Fanatics. And that was the highest total, the highest monthly total for Fanatics They've only been active in New York for a handful of months now as they took over for PointsBet. But even going back to the PointsBet days, that $8.9 million in revenue from July is the best when you're looking at Fanatics or even PointsBet going back to when that market opened in January of 2022, Craig.
Got it. All right. So July is a big month for FanDuel. And what I'm seeing here from Churchill Downs and some of the other horse racing entities, especially for people who are interested on betting on horse racing, is that, Jim, really no demise for any sports betting. In fact, not just small percentage rises in sports betting, but pretty significant rises across a lot of the major operators like DraftKings and FanDuel. I mean, Jim, sometimes we could do a story and paint a narrative if this was only 5 or 10%. But I mean, I'm looking at these numbers. This is 40% revenue.
Yeah, so the Kentucky market has been solid since they launched there in September. In June, $145.7 million that was bet, and that pushed that total market past that $2 billion mark in total handle since September. And if you recall, the retail sports books opened up on that opening night of the NFL season last September, and then the online sports books, the sports betting apps, they followed a couple weeks later towards the end of September. But all in all, over $2 billion bet in Kentucky from September through June. And those percentages there were the market share that each of the operators has. DraftKings has the largest market share of handle there with 39%. BetMGM and Bet365 keep going back and forth for that third and fourth position with roughly 6% of the market. ESPN Bet a couple of percentage points below that with 4.5%. And what we've seen from Bet365 and some of these other markets, especially in the Midwest like Ohio, where they're really starting to cement themselves as, you know, that third or fourth player in those markets, obviously behind those top two, FanDuel and DraftKings, like we see in just about every single market across the country. But in these markets, these, you know, we'll call them smaller markets, Bet365 does seem to be growing in popularity. Churchill Downs on the retail side, the most popular retail in-person sports book in Kentucky, $32.1 million in bets at Churchill Downs. And I found that interesting, mostly because they do shut that sports book down at points throughout the year when they have these marquee horse racing events. I recall around the Kentucky Derby, in the lead up to the Derby, and even a few days past the Derby, with all of the preparations and all of the luxury seating that they have there, that sportsbook was closed for at least 2 weeks, if not more. So for them to still be tops in the retail market there, Churchill Downs is in Kentucky, I thought that was pretty impressive, Craig.
Yeah, definitely so. And I would say that if that's not one of the big stories of the year of success, it has to be Indiana and their sports betting success as well, because as we're closing out the summer and moving into the fall here, it appears as though this market is one of the nice success stories of the year, rising in popularity and revenue across the board.
Yeah, and perhaps I'm the only one that seems mostly interested in this Indiana market, but you know, tracking it over the last year and a half or so, and seeing how they felt a little bit of a pinch last year with Ohio coming online at the beginning of 2023 in January, and then you had, like we just talked about, the Kentucky market coming on in September. The numbers did seem to shrink a little bit with that added competition. So this year so far, we've seen Indiana return to those 2022 figures, like we've talked about a bunch here, Craig. We've talked about it for a handful of months consecutively now. And the Indiana sportsbooks in July, they won more than 11%. They kept more than 11% of the sports betting dollars there. And that 11.3% win rate in July was the highest so far this year, and even going back to last July. So when we typically see the volume of betting, the betting handle come down June, July, and the summer months, when a lot of the major sports aren't in action. It's baseball. And, of course, we had the Olympics this year, but, it doesn't have the power that the NFL obviously has, or the NBA obviously has. So we tend to see those handle figures come down, but it is a positive sign to see that the sports books are at least for them, maybe not necessarily for the bettors, but it is a positive sign on the revenue end for the sports books to see that double digit hold. And again, the revenue, nearly $29.5 million in July in Indiana. That's up 2022 numbers, and the handle $261.1 million in July, also up over 2022 numbers in July. So a positive trend in the right direction for Indiana, kind of shaking off those two states, Ohio and Kentucky, that legalized sports betting last year.
Yeah, and I would say that that's one of the states to keep an eye on. But real quick, let's get to Nebraska before we end. Any resolution yet here on this, Jim, or we're still going to have to wait?
Yeah, we're still waiting. Tracking it, the legislature in that special session, they opened up and quickly adjourned this morning. Sports hasn't come up just yet. Maybe not, most likely not, but we'll keep tracking it and see if there's a resolution soon here in the next couple days.
All right, thanks, Jim. We are watching to see, by the way, what I'm alluding to is Nebraska legalizing online sports betting potentially this week. All right, Jim, thanks a lot.
What a chance it is for Adam Paxton and Victor Tingsham to pick up their first weekly titles. Adam Paxton, well, it's been the dream debut so far for him. For Victor Tingsham, he'll feel like this is a moment a little while coming. A place in the final up for grabs for one.
You can do it. Make that double 18 away from a place in the final.
Wesley Plaisir was beaten, knocked out by Mike Warburton in a last leg decider.
Play. That is what they are playing for. They are playing for the trophy. They are playing for the big prize pot, and they are playing for a place in the £25,000 Champions Week.
97.
There is a point you feel that reality will surely kick in for Adam Paxton. He's here on debut. He watches the Super Series almost every single week. He was happy just to be playing in a group. This could be the leg that we talk about at the end of the night as being the one that changed the final, because Adam Paxton has just gone cold at the moment.
Bang on cue.
He doesn't just get two, he gets the lot.
Should take out the 16 out. If not, Mike's just behind him.
Shot on the fifth leg.
Can Paxton deliver one of the biggest moments of his career so far? He can. Double 12. What a moment that is from Adam Paxton. Mike Warburton was looking at 60 to win the match. Paxton, here's your moment. He approaches the hockey with confidence, with time, and delivers. Adam Paxton on debut. The boy, the fanboy, comes to the Super Series and wins.
Welcome back to NewsWire here on SportsGrid. We've got Brady Kannon in the house to review the St. Jude tournament over the weekend and also tell us a little about his new podcast venture that he has here on SportsGrid. Excited to talk about both. Great to have you, Brady, here on the show. Great call, by the way, last week with Hideki Matsuyama, which I'm going to guess, Brady, we are in, let's see, August. I mean, lifetime of sweats, I'm not going to say that. But this would have had to have been your big. I'm not going to do that, Brady, because I know you too well. I know you way too well. But this had to be your biggest sweat of the year, I would say, of 2024.
No doubt about it. Definitely the biggest sweat of the year. Hideki Matsuyama just absolutely cruising along, goes into Sunday as a minus 450 favorite with a 5-shot lead. Still has a 5-shot lead when he makes the turn on the back nine. Has a 5-shot lead with just 7 holes left to play, and then all hell broke loose. And boy, yes, I was pulling my hair out, going nuts. He actually fell out of the lead for a second. And then Victor Hovland was kind enough to make a bogey and miss a birdie putt on 18, and Hideki drilled another lengthy putt on the 17th hole to take the lead for good. You know, he made 3 big birdie putts in his round, and they were each of 20 feet or more. A 38-footer on the on the 8th hole, a 20-footer on 11, and then a 26-footer on 17 that sealed the deal. But yeah, nice to get a winner home. You would have hated to have lost that one with such a big cushion there down the stretch.
Yeah, without a doubt. And the FedEx Cup is really, coming down to the wire here. It's not a big surprise as we head toward the playoff that Scotty Scheffler has such a big lead over everyone else, but Xander Schauffele's in second in terms of points. He's had a great year too. This win puts Hideki in the 3 spot, Colin Morikawa 4, and Rory McIlroy, who I know looks at 5 and, has somewhat of exciting to be in the top 5. I know he probably expected a little bit better. He wanted to be in that top 3, but he is not there. Let's touch on this real quick before we move on to football stuff.
Yeah, Rory finished second to last in that tournament this past weekend, and that dropped him from the 3 spot to the 5 spot, which is a big deal because that could be a 4-shot swing. When we get to next week and the top 30 and you have the staggered scoring system, Rory might start, let's see, what is that? I don't know, 6-7 shots off the pace rather than 4 shots off the pace. So that is a big deal, Rory dipping to the 5 hole there. We've got a lot of elevation this week. We're playing at 6,300 feet in Castle Pines, Colorado. They used to play the International there all the way up until 2006, if you recall, with the Staberfold scoring system. Yes. I looked at what some of these guys have done at the old WGC Mexico when they played at Chapultepec, which is another course that was at high elevation. I think that one was at about 7,000 feet. This is an 8,100-yard course, but when you figure in the elevation, it probably plays more like 7,400 yards. But I noticed 3 guys. In fact, Rory, Justin Thomas, and Tommy Fleetwood all did pretty well at elevation in Mexico. And it would behoove Fleetwood to do well this week because he is 31st in points. So next week, you got to get into that top 30 to make it to the Tour Championship, which also gives you a 2-year exemption on the PGA Tour and gets you into all the signature events and the major championships. So getting into that top 30, a big deal this week here in Colorado.
Yeah, and we'll be looking out for that as we head toward it. But as Brady knows, and I know, and everyone out there knows, is that golf is going to take a pretty big backseat over the next couple of weeks to the other sports that are coming here. We have college football beginning this week, week 0. Followed by a Labor Day extravaganza of some huge games in college football. And then, of course, the NFL begins. Now, here on SportsGrid, we have a brand new podcast, and you can watch it and listen to it every single week at 6 a.m. Eastern. So I will watch it on demand, Brady, no disrespect. But this is a brand new show, which I have been yearning for a long time. You and I have talked about this. It is the football contest show out of Las Vegas, with Brady and a couple of other hosts. I don't want to ruin it. I'll let Brady tell you about it. And Brady, essentially what this is going to do is not only let people take a peek as to some of the teams and picks that you like, but I think will also give people like who are doing these football contest pools every single week more of an insight as to who they should be picking against the spread. Tell us more about the show.
Yeah, we are really excited, Craig, and thank you for giving me a minute to tell everybody about it. The Las Vegas Football Contest Show, football, as you know, is king. And then on top of that, football contests have become so very popular. You have the Circa Resort with Circa Survivor and the Circa Sports Million. You have the Westgate Super Contest. And we will focus on those three major contests in Las Vegas where, you're probably going to have some 20,000 people participating. And, Circa alone is guaranteeing $16 million in payouts in their contest. So it's really become, there is such an appetite for these football contests now. We thought it would be great to not just do a football show, but focus specifically on football contests. Myself, I won the Westgate Super Contest in 2011. My co-host, James Salinas, won the Super Contest in 2015. Also followed that up with a third place finish the following year. He's been very successful in football contests. And then our third host is Mike Pritchard, who was a first-round draft choice of the Atlanta Falcons, played in the NFL for 9 years. The three of us have all worked together extensively talking about NFL football, handicapping NFL football, and talking about contest play. So we are going to team up. We will each have an entry in the Circa Sports Million, in the Circa Survivor, and the Westgate Super Contest. And each week on the show that will air here on SportsGrid, we will talk about our handicap of the games, break down the games, our process as a team and coming up with the selections, and then ultimately release what our selections are to the viewing and listening audience. And hey, hopefully come week 13, week 14, we're in the thick of it and, cruising right along, making this a very exciting show.
Yeah, and obviously you can download the audio of this show too, to be clear on this with Brady. And I do want to say, not just on behalf of Brady, but on behalf of this show, folks, you see a lot of people all over the country making picks, giving their opinions, some betting, some not. Folks, if the people out there are not in this contest and are not taking this seriously, it is very hard for me to get behind them. I am behind this show and Brady and his co-host. This is going to be fantastic. Thanks again, Brady, for coming on.
Thank you, Craig.
What a chance it is for Adam Paxton and Victor Tingstrom to pick up their first weekly titles. Adam Paxton, well, it's been the dream debut so far for him. For Victor Tingstrom, he'll feel like this is a moment a little while coming. A place in the final up for grabs for one.
You can do it. Make that double 18 away from a place in the final.
Wesley Plaisir was beaten, knocked out by Mike Warburton in a last leg decider.
Play. That is what they are playing for. They are playing for the trophy. They are playing for the big prize pot, and they are playing for a place in the £25,000 Champions Week.
97.
There is a point you feel that reality will surely kick in for Adam Paxton. He's here on debut. He watches the Super Series almost every single week. He was happy just to be playing in a group. This could be the leg that we talk about at the end of the night as being the one that changed the final, because Adam Paxton has just gone cold at the moment.
Bang on,
He doesn't just get two, he gets the lot.
Adam should take out the 16 out. If not, Mike's just behind him.
Shot on the big flag.
Can Paxton deliver one of the biggest moments of his career so far? He can. Double 12. What a moment that is from Adam Paxton. Mike Warburton was looking at 60 to win the match.
14.
Paxton, here's your moment. He approaches the jockey with confidence, with time, and delivers. Adam Paxton on debut. The boy, the fanboy, comes to the Super Series and wins.
Welcome back to NewsWire. As we get ready to wrap up this show, we'll hit on some fun with Mike Trout. Also, Hideki Matsuyama making news not just for winning, and also it looks like we're finally going to get this Mike Tyson-Paul fight. Let's hit on them all. Time for some last licks. All right, here we go again. In November now, they're supposed to fight Jake Paul, Mike Tyson. That is the battle of heavyweights, if you want to call it that. Mike Tyson, of course, pushing 60, I believe, and Jake Paul just pushing his product. So they actually had their sort of weigh-in, and it looks to me like it was a lot of fun. You know, the guys going back and forth. But Jake Paul decided verbally to take it to Mike Tyson and to say he's going to win and do all these, talk all this smack or whatever. And the great thing was about this, unlike the past, Mike Tyson, much older, much wiser, didn't throw anything, didn't get mad, didn't give you the quote of a lifetime. Mike Tyson did nothing. Mike Tyson just said, okay, I'll see you in November. That's it. So we could take this one of two ways. Either Mike Tyson has really learned something through the years. He thinks he's going to win the fight and doesn't need to talk smack. Or maybe Mike Tyson just doesn't know how he's going to fare against Jake Paul. Now, like all of the other fights that Jake Paul has been in, every single one of them have given somebody else an opportunity to make a name for themselves over Jake Paul. None of them have succeeded. You have to give it to Jake Paul for that. I don't care who he's been fighting. He's beaten them all. And this one is the next one. And it's on Netflix in November. Of course, we will be talking about that coming up in a couple of months. All right, Hideki Matsuyama ends up winning the St. Jude, and he gave somebody in the crowd a moment of a lifetime. A hole-in-one, but not a hole-in-one in the hole. A hole-in-one in somebody's pocket. That's right, a tee shot, by the way. That had to be a little painful. A tee shot from Hideki lands into the pocket of a bystander. And as you can see there, Hideki in the yellow was able to take the ball out of the pocket, place the ball on the ground, and then go from there. Now, naturally, these stories usually don't end up well. There's some sort of injury, somebody gets hit in the head. But how about landing it in the pocket of somebody who's watching? Like, I have not been privy to that sort of stuff ever, but to see that happen, pretty cool. And by the way, Hideki, as part of all of that, fell apart on the final day at the St. Jude, and then came back to win it again, as Brady talked about. So congrats to him. And again, the FedEx playoff coming soon to a golf course near you. All right, meanwhile, if you watched the show on Friday, there was a topic I wanted to bring up. I didn't get a chance to. I got to do it today. Somebody like myself who's been an avid fan of baseball cards for many, many years saw a video pop up on social media late Friday, and that was Mike Trout, who is out for the year, somehow acquired a box of Bowman Chrome, the same box that was in his rookie card year. And I mean, this is like a six-figure box, by the way, forever. And he's just opening it with his son like nothing. But the funny part about this is that they're opening the box looking for his signed rookie card, which in graded a PSA 10 is worth, I don't know, $50,000, $100,000, something like that. So Trout and his son are opening up the box. And wouldn't you know, it looked like, again, just a few packs in, Trout actually pulls, which is so rare, his own, not just his own rookie card, but his own signed rookie card too from this box. And the joy on his face and the joy on his son's face, even though financially it doesn't make a difference to them because Mike Trout is making $40 million a year, so it doesn't matter. But to see the joy of actually pulling his own card out of the box was so cool to see. And I wanted to bring it up here at the end of the show. So I know it's a couple days old, but regardless, that's how we're going to end the show here today. All right. As we leave you here on NewsWire for the day today, I want to remind you of our programming coming up. I've got the early line scheduled in just 3 minutes from now, and that's followed by Kaplan and crew coming up immediately after that at 1 p.m. Eastern. So stay tuned for Pharrell. 3 o'clock, he's in the house. Game time decisions at 6, in-game live prime time. And then Gabe has all the action tonight in Major League Baseball and, of course, the WNBA, as well as everything happening in sports, giving you previews of college and pro football as well. Thanks to Brady Kannon for coming on the program. We'll tell you more about his podcast as we go on. In addition, thanks to Jacob Camenker from Sporting News and also Jim Gazzale from Legal Sports Report. Thanks to Luke, our director, and Frank, our producer. I'm Craig Mish. I hope you enjoy the rest of your Monday here on SportsGrid. We'll be right back here with another edition of the show tomorrow morning at 11 a.m. Eastern, getting you ready for week 0 of college football. We'll preview all the games this week against the spread and, of course, get you ready for what's going to be a great weekend of opening weekend college football programming as well. Have a great day, everyone. I'll see you tomorrow.